Well, hello everyone. It's Friday, and here we find ourselves again. I hope everyone had a wonderful week. We got Kitty Coos, Getty Nona, Gone Girl. I hope you all had a great week. Back at it again. Live stream Friday, Saturday, and yes, Sunday. I did receive several messages this week that reminded me, hey, the Super Bowl is this Sunday, right? Are you still doing trivia? And the answer to that is absolutely. I am doing the trivia night just like I would be doing it any other Sunday. Just because the Super Bowl happens to fall on the same day doesn't mean that I'm not going to be here to do trivia night. Gemma, good evening. Happy Friday, everyone. Happy Friday. Give it a couple minutes more and we'll get this going. But yes, I am aware again, like I was saying, that the Super Bowl is this Sunday. And I understand at the same time there may be people who have, gatherings of friends or whatever. Maybe they're doing that instead. But, if you don't want to watch the Super Bowl or, you want to sit in another room nice and quietly and watch a live stream about, crime, I'm here. I'm not doing too good. Just came home early from a concert after some guy was being creepy to me. I'm sorry about that, Gemma. Sorry about that entirely. It happens though, but it even sucks worse when it happens to you. Absolutely. Wish people would, keep to themselves and not be creepy, but I meet my fair share of them online. All right, again, so I'm going to read you the first before we get going here. I'm going to read you the original email. Now I've received this email or a variation of this a lot over the last 6 years. I've received this question. Most of the time, people want to know, where do I rank this killer? Do I think they're one of the worst? Do I think that they're worse than this one, or on a scale, where are they? Or somebody will ask me in a comment section or email, whichever it might be, or even in a live stream, do where do you rank these skillers? And they'll shoot out like three or four of them. But this is the email that I actually received was this was an email, and it was also a comment on another stream. Rank these killers based on a complex evaluation of psychological complexity, brutality, victim count, modus of operandi, and overall impact. And if you could expand on a little bit of information about why you decided that. I understand you're not a professional in the field of psychology, but you've done an awful lot of research on serial killers. And then they gave me a list of the 14 serial killers that they wanted to see where I would rank them. Now, with that in mind, and the email read, let's get into this. And I'm going to give you a little bit of background on my mindset on how I had to decide where I rank these 14. All right. First off, viewer discretion is advised. The following content contains discussions of crimes, violence, and other potential disturbing topics and may not be suitable for all audience. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. Over the years, like I said, I've received numerous requests to rank serial killers based on the knowledge and research that I have. In response to the most recent inquiry, I'm providing my perspective on this topic tonight. Rank these 14 serial killers: Dahmer, Bundy, Gacy, Ramirez, Rader, Keys, Little, Kemper, Alcala, Bernardo, Holmes, Cullen, Yates, and Mullen. Those are the 14 that they wanted me to rank. I ranked them based on this. I took all 14 of them and I gave them a point system from 1 to 5. And here's an example. Say Ted Bundy was a sadistic sexual killer. We all know that. That's a a given thing that everyone who's ever read about Ted Bundy knows. But he's not the worst of the worst. So on this scale of, again, ranking from 1 to 5, he got 4 out of 5 on just that. What other categories did I rank, give points to each and every one of them on? These are the categories that I rated them 1 through 5 on to give them an overall score to see where they would end up on the scale. Again, I did this blindly, not like saying, oh, look, this one got 37 and is definitely worse than this one, or this one's 28 and is worse than this one. I rated them, and then I put the paper aside, and then I picked the next one, and then I went through again all of these. Were they sadistic? Were they a sexual sadistic killer? Were they manipulative? Did they fear during and after their crimes? Were their laws changed because of what they did? Then brutality. How brutal of a killer were they? Did they just stab them, a victim, and dump them into the woods and move on? Were they a necrophilia or a trophy hunter or both? Again, using Ted Bundy as an example. Ted Bundy was a necrophilia and he also was a trophy hunter. He did decapitate some of his victims and keep their heads for weeks on end as trophies. So Ted Bundy was a trophy hunter and he also had sex with the dead corpse until they became putrid. So he would be, rated, 1 through 5 on was he the necrophilia and was he a trophy hunter? So he could have gotten 9 points on a total for that one category. But those are the categories that I judged him on. Additionally, you're going to see numbers like this, like 28 out of 35 on each and every one of them. These numbers in red and will be to the left or the right of the actual picture of the individual, is the brutality score that the Crime Writers of America gave to these serial killers. Now, this list is old. It was released in 2020, and some of them were updated later on, but not all 14 of them were. For the ones that didn't have it, I associated a score based on their criteria of how they determine. They used different criteria that I did. All right, with all that said, it may seem easy to rank serial killers based just on how many victims each one killed. However, that would only be telling part of the story. Each one spread terror, fear in different ways. Laws were changed after they were caught or during their manhunt for them, while others spread fear even after caught or they were dead. With that in mind, let's jump into number 14. These are going from least to most. 14 is the least, and number 1 is the worst, in my opinion. Number 14 is Herbert Mullen, or Herbert Mullins, plural. His confirmed kill is, and every one of them will have a confirmed kill underneath their actual name. The red score, again, where it says 10 out of 35, that is the Crime Writers of America, their score. Some notes on why I've ranked Herbert Mullen number 14 out of the list is the man was truly insane. I have to, give him to points where he, at some points in his existence while he was committing his crime spree, Herbert Mullins didn't know his own name, nor did he know where he was. He was that delusional. And he believed that, committing these murders would prevent earthquakes. Yes. And it wasn't like he said that and he's like, they're gonna find this funny. No, he really believed that committing these crimes, these murders, were kind of like a sacrifice to not just to a god, but to the universe, is how he put it. and he believed if he killed them, it would prevent earthquakes in the state of California. And on top of that, he was not a sadistic killer. He killed, yes, but he wasn't he didn't, qualify as a sadistic killer. So with that in mind, Herbert Mullen is number 14 on this list of serial killers. So now, again, I want to stress this. Underneath each and every one of them, where it says confirmed kills, some of the individuals on this list, you're going to see, maybe you believe they killed 200, maybe you believe they killed 61 or 19, but the FBI says that they were confirmed to have killed an X amount of individuals when incarcerated. So if you believe that they may have killed 175 or 10 or 12 or whatever it might be, you may not agree with the number, but that is their confirmed kill according to the FBI. So that is why it says confirmed kill for Herbert Mullen. Herbert Mullen, most likely, if you're wondering, may have killed as many as 22, but his confirmed body count is 13. All right. Number 13 on the list is H.H. Holmes. H.H. Holmes only had 9 confirmed kills according to the FBI. H.H. Holmes was more of a con man than he was a killer. The murders were definitely exploited by the media to send shock and awe and fear. And over the history, a lot of the crimes of H.H. Holmes have been exaggerated beyond belief of what he did. A lot of what his murders were done for was for financial reasons only. Half of the things you probably believe about the murder hotel are not true. There was not a torture chamber in the basement, as one example. Yes, there were hidden rooms with corridors that led to other rooms, but those were not rooms that he used, hiding rooms to commit murders. He used them to hide assets that he would get from vendors that he didn't have the money to pay for, and so he would hide the items in these false fake rooms. And the hallways or passageways from one room to another were ways for him to get into the rooms, take items out, put them in the hidden room, and then when the vendor would come in and go, "Where's those chairs that I delivered?" "I don't have them." "I know what you're talking about. They're not here. Go look." And they would go look in the rooms, and they were like, "Oh, all those chairs are not here. Well, I wonder what happened to them all." But they weren't meant for him to go kill guests from room to room. Oh, he had his methods of killing them. Trust me. But his confirmed kill was 9, and Murder Writers of America rated him 18 out of 35. And I rank him as number 13 on this list. Number 12 is Charles Cullen. Confirmed kill is 29. Again, depending upon what magazine or website you want to believe, some people believe his actual kill count is well excess of 60. He killed his people by overdosing patients. He was known as the Angel of Death. He wasn't a sexual sadist, and he truly did feel compassion for the crimes that he did afterwards. And he felt sorry that he was actually stopped, because at one point he couldn't even explain why he kept on killing. Originally, he said he was ending the suffering of patients, and that very much was probably true for maybe like the first dozen. But after that, it just kind of like got away from him, and he couldn't explain why he kept on killing. But he believed he was really doing God's work. That he was ending the suffering for these people, and that God wanted him to end it. It wasn't a religious aspect, like God came to him and spoke to him and told him that to commit these murders. He believed that he was doing a helping thing by ending their suffering so they can move on. But that's why he how he explains it. And this, if you ever get a chance to watch this complete unedited 60 minutes interview with Charles Cullen from the penitentiary, I highly recommend it. You have to find the entire one with it's like an hour and 14 minutes, not just a 60 minutes but they have like the 60-minute show and then they have the extended 60-minute show. You have to find that one, but it's very much worth the time and a watch. Number 11 is Robert Yates. Confirmed kill. Again. Oh, I just moved my cable. Hold on. You don't want to hear that hissing. Hold on. Loud noise. Okay. Gonna unplug it. Yeah, that's the loud noise I was talking about. I yanked the cable from my microphone. My bad. All right, Robert Yates. Crime Writers America rated him 30 out of 35 on the that's their brutality score for Robert Yates. He targeted sex workers, targeted drug addicts. He wasn't a sadist, but he definitely was practiced necrophilia, and he buried all his victims eventually once they became too putrid for him to come back to later on. And yes, Robert was definitely mentally deranged at the time that he committed all of his murders, even though he put in place quite a few different tactics to get throw the authorities off of his trail. Oh man, what did I do? This thing is buzzing like crazy. If I take my finger off the cable. Sorry. All right. But Robert Yates, I rank him at number 11 out of the 14. Number 10, Paul Bernardo. Confirmed kills 3. His murders were all done with his other half, Carla. But he was a sexual sadist. He loved to torture his victims, and he recorded the torture of his victims and their murders. And on top of that, Paul Bernardo was cruel emotionally and physically, not only to his victims, but to Carla as well, and to others who were in and around their family, and people who knew him. He didn't care. He is truly a psychopath, unable to feel any kind of remorse or connection to anyone. But I ranked him at number 10 on this list. Crime Writers of America said that his brutality score was a 17 out of 35, and I'm sure his number would have been a heck of a lot higher if they would have gotten away with more murders than they did. Number 9, Dennis Rader. Confirmed kills of 10, even though some people believe his actual murder count is closer to 25. He was a sadistic killer. He was a sexual sadistic killer. He tortured every one of his victims. That is his MO after all. Laws were changed because of his murders and how missing people and crimes are actually reported. And overall, Dennis Rader had a complete arrogance about him, about every aspect of it. The law enforcement, those who investigated his victims and how stupid they were for allowing him to get close to them. Everything. He believes that he is better than everyone and that everyone deserved what happened to them. He cares nothing about the victims or their families. So I rated him number 9. Again, Crime Writers America brutality score is 31 out of 35. Number 8 on the list is Ed Kemper. Confirmed kill is 10. It might be higher than that. Again, some people put it next to 14 or 15, but again, his confirmed kill is 10. Kemper, as brilliant as the man is, he is truly deranged. Extremely over the top brutality. If you know about they called him the co-ed killer. He was one of 4 serial killers they called the co-ed killer. But his brutality for how he and what his method of how he killed some of his victims was way over the top, beyond just killing them. It was killing them and damn near decapitating them for no reason at all. He also killed his grandparents and he killed his abusive mother. Some of his actual murders, Kemper's murders, were ritualistic in nature. It's not something a lot of people talk about when it comes to Kemper. I personally, I think Ed Kemper is probably, so far to this point in the list, is one of the most interesting serial killers so far. But we'll get into that a little bit later on here. But I put him at number 8. Crime Writers of America rated him 28 out of 35 on brutality. Oh, thank you, Gone Girl. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Really do appreciate the super chat there. Number 7 is Rodney Alcala. Confirmed kills 8. This is the man who was called the dating game killer. He was on the TV show in the 1970s, The Dating Game, and he was picked to go out on a date with the lady who was the contestant on the show. But they never went out on the date because she got creepy vibes from Rodney Alcala before they went out on their date. Crime Writers of America gave him 11 out of 35 on the brutality score. But he photographed every single victim prior to their murders. And some of the Polaroid pictures that he took of the murders, he gave away to other people. Like, hey, look, I took a picture of this lady. But they didn't know that later on in those pictures, a series of pictures, that woman was murdered by Rodney. But he gave some of those pictures away to other people. Were they killers? No. He just gave them away to others. Hey, here's a picture of a lady. And they didn't know that Rodney later on killed that lady. He tortured every single one of his victims. And he had sex with every single one of his victims, or tried to. Even by his own admissions. Some of them he just wasn't able to get into the mood with, but he still tried anyways. But Rodney Alcala is number 7 on this list. Number 6 is Israel Keys. Confirmed kill count of 3. I would put his actual real kill count at 11, but that's what the FBI says his confirmed kill count is 3. He was a methodical killer. No victim type or reason. Even by his own admission while he was in jail in Alaska after they arrested him. He said that it was random. He would drive and drive and drive until he got to an area and he saw someone that he finally decided that's the one. That's the one I have to kill. Israel Keys hid kill buckets all over the United States. And these kill buckets or kill kits were a 5-gallon bucket that had all of the tools that he would need to commit additional murders. And these kill kits that he had plans to kill over 100 people. But he didn't get that far. Once he was arrested and charged with murder, Israel Keys took himself out of the picture before we could ever learn more about what he was doing, what he was doing. But again, I know a lot of people are going to go like, "Hey, man, we've got 3 murders just in New Jersey and New York that have been pinned to him, and then we have the last victim. That's 4 right there. Why does the FBI only say 3? Because they can't confirm that he really did kill the couple in New Jersey. They believe he did, but he was never prosecuted for that. That's just one example. That's why they're confirmed. And then it comes to the FBI, kill number is vastly different in a lot of these than what we believe their real kill number was. Again, it's not my number. Again, I told you, I believe his kill number was in excess of 11, but I can't prove it, and nor do I have the time and the lifespan to be able to hunt down all the possible people he killed. If y'all want to pay me to do it, I mean, I guess I could quit my job and do that for a living. Just figure out where he killed everyone, because I know it is. I mean, my heart of hearts says his kill number is 11 or more, but I can't prove it. Number 5 on this list is Richard Ramirez. Crime Writers of America gave him a 26 out of 35, with the FBI giving him a confirmed kill count of 14. Richard Ramirez was sadistic in nature in everything. Every aspect of his crime spree was sadistic. He loved to torture every single one of his victims. Emotionally, psychologically, and physically torture them all. Laws were definitely changed after the crime spree of Richard Ramirez. And every single one of his crimes had a satanic theme, to each and every one of them. But although I want to make sure everyone understands when it comes to Richard Ramirez and his satanic themes to his murders, Richard Ramirez did not practice Satanism. He did not practice the dark arts. He read just enough about it and used the symbolism of it all, just enough of it to scare the living snot out of society around them during, after. His fear went a lot farther than just the times that he was around. And after he was caught and incarcerated, it continued during court when he would paint pentagrams on his hands, and show them off for, to the media who was taking pictures of him. And he wanted to look as scary as possible. The boogeyman himself, that fear me. There could be more like me, is what he wanted to spread. But when it came right down to it, I mean, I don't think I put him at number 5, but I don't think he's the scariest of all the ones on this list. I think there are others who we've already covered who spread more fear in society, and likely so because they did things in such a way, where they picked their victims random, like Israel Keys, but Richard Ramirez is number 5 on this list. Number 4 is Jeffrey Dahmer. I put him at number 4, and Crime Writers of America for brutality gives him a 28 out of 35. Confirmed kills. The FBI says he killed 17. Yeah, if you didn't know this, here's a surprise. Jeffrey Dahmer was a sadistic sexual killer. He got off on actually killing. And after he killed them, he definitely practiced necrophilia, with each and every one of his victims, or parts of their bodies. He kept some parts of their bodies in the refrigerator and in barrels in the home, and in the bathtub, in the shower. He kept, one of his last victims there, and then showered over him. But he definitely was, a cannibal on top of it all. And there is a chance that Jeffrey Dahmer made lunch meat out of at least one victim and fed them to his neighbors. That is a very good possibility. If you have to put a percentage on it, with the information that we know about Dahmer and how he acted and what he did, it would be better than 90% chance that he ground up one of his victims and made sandwiches and handed them out to his neighbors who actually ate them, thinking it was some kind of like liverwurst sandwich or lunch meat. Yes, add that to your information that you know about Jeffrey Dahmer. Laws were definitely changed over his crime spree. Let us not forget about the young Vietnamese man who got away, and the police returned him back to Jeffrey Dahmer because they couldn't understand him, and they believed that it was a lover's quarrel. That man didn't stand a chance and was shortly murdered thereafter as soon as Jeffrey got him back into the apartment. But laws were changed. Oh, yes, they were. And again, I also mentioned already that he may have fed his victims to others, mainly his neighbors. Number 3 on this list is good old Teddy. Ted Bundy, confirmed murder count. This is the only one of the 14 when it comes to the total murder count that the FBI is not sure of the exact number of murders that he may have committed. They have him listed at 30 plus. Teddy was very manipulative. He was manipulative to everyone he ever sat down and talked to. He killed in broad daylight and he targeted women between the ages of 12 and 27. He didn't care. He wanted women who looked a certain way: long brown hair, slender, young, or professional. He wanted them to look a certain way. Every one of them was a surrogate for his fiance who left him. They all looked exactly like her. He was a brutal sexual sadistic killer. Brutal. Some of them he beat multiple times after they were dead and took out his rage upon them until, again, they became too putrid for him to come back to and comb their hair and do their makeup and redress them and have sex with them. And only then, and after, they became putrid, did he move on to the next one. And of course, like I said, he definitely practiced necrophilia. But he is number 3 on my list, and the score of 30 out of 35 on the brutality score list by the Crime Writers of America. Number 2, John Wayne Gacy. Confirmed kill count of 33. Crime Writers of America gave him a 26 out of 35. A sexual sadistic killer. Necrophilia. He definitely practiced necrophilia with his victims. He was like Ted Bundy, was extremely manipulative, even after behind, caught, sentenced, put away for life, and waiting to die. You came to him, you wanted, to know why he did it or what he did, and you wanted to talk to him. Watch the interviews with Gacy and Robert Ressler from the FBI, and watch Gacy try to manipulate Robert Ressler. And Robert's not having any of it. And he keeps on shooting him down over and over again. But Gacy tries with his 3-ring binders sitting on the table in front of him to try to manipulate the conversation and to manipulate Robert into believing something that didn't happen. And it was somebody else. But great interviews, that Robert Ressler did with the FBI with Gacy. The psychological tear that Gacy had on the community, not only in the state of Chicago, in the Chicago area, in the state of Illinois, but that fear transcended later on in the community, especially in the gay and and lesbian community, that there could be somebody else out there like this Gacy? What happened to that person that was at the bar last weekend that we were having that great conversation with? Or whatever happened to so and so? Is there another killer out there like Gacy? These things went on for years and years afterwards within those communities, and people became more closed in and more protective, and they started traveling in groups of two, and then their guards let down, like they did with the Ted Bundy. Don't walk on campus by yourself. Always go in the buddy program. And then when nothing happens, they let their guards down, and that's when they strike again. And everyone was waiting for the next Gacy to show up. Years and years and years afterwards, they feared another Gacy preying upon their community. The psychological terror that has on a populace in that area is overwhelming. And then it would be picked up in other areas where people would wonder, whatever happened to that guy we had that feeling about, you got the heebie jeebies about? Maybe it was in New York or in Los Angeles at shortly thereafter they caught Gacy, who looked like the all American, middle class businessman who the Carter administration, these politicians put up there on a pedestal and said, this individual is someone to achieve to this, ignoring the fact that years and years before they ever got involved with him, he'd already been to prison. He was already registered as a sex offender in the system, but there wasn't a system that got shared out with the public because he went to prison for sodomy on a young man, and then he tried to have that guy killed. I mean, but all of that is just mind blowing when you think about it later on. Just how much people then put him on a pedestal later on because he was able to accomplish things. He was able to help certain political groups get their agenda done. He was able to help people, hey, we have this problem. Can you fix it? And Gacy was like, yeah, I'm on it. And 9 times out of 10, he would get it done. We need someone to come in and clean these offices and take care of this issue for us. Gacy was on it like that. I'll put the paintbrush and the construction side down, and I'll open myself a cleaning service. Why would he do that? Because he wanted the power and control, and these people would feed him that nonstop. That is why Gacy is number 2 on my list. Number 1 on my list of the worst serial killers goes out to none other than Samuel Little. According to the FBI, his kill count will stay at 93. Although, sitting down with a former Texas Ranger, Samuel Little drew or painted the faces of 104 women and gave a confession, a complete confession to murdering 104 women. He killed anyone. He didn't target just one part of society. He killed runaways, prostitutes, drug addicts, alcoholics, anyone who was poor or marginalized by society. Didn't fit into a clique here or there. You would end up, in the crosshairs of Samuel Little. Nope. But he was definitely a sexual sadist, and he also did things throughout the years, as he traveled from one city to another, forensically covering his tracks, changing cars, changing clothes, and making sure he didn't just take his clothes off and throw them in a dumpster or donate them to Goodwill. He destroyed items, but he also kept trophies for each and every one of them of his kills, and he put these trophies away. Well, after telling the Texas Ranger where these little trophy boxes were, maybe they were earrings or a ring or an identification card. He told him where he put these things at because he knew he was never getting out of prison. He had a terminal illness, and they knew he knew he was going to die. That's why he finally decided to come clean and sit down and talk to that Texas Ranger and tell him all about his crimes. And he wasn't just blowing smoke up his rear end. Every single one of the murders that he talked about was confirmed. If they've been identified, some of those women are still listed as missing, and nobody knows what happened to them. But as Samuel Little sat down and talked about the murders, it was like him sitting there and he could remember it like a movie. He'd close his eyes and he'd start talking about a murder and in this location. And then he'd say, maybe he only knew their first names. Some of them he knew first names and last names. And he'd tell the ranger about how he got them into his car, how he killed them, where he dumped their bodies at, how everything was. Maybe he'd give details about what they liked, what they feared, what they did in their spare time, if there was a movie or a comedian in it that they liked. He knew some of these victims very well. He knew them for long periods of time. But when he came to the urge to kill, he killed. And he killed a lot. And that is why Samuel Little is number one on my list of the 14 serial killers I was asked to rank. Crime Writers of America scored, these are all their scores that you see in yellow here next to their names. The ones with red asterisks next to them are the ones that I personally find the most interesting out of the 14. Mullins, Cullen, Yates, Kemper, and Samuel Little. I find the most interesting of all the 14. I wasn't asked to rank these, killers. Gary Ridgway, Charles Albanese, David Berkowitz, Edward Adams, or Jack the Ripper. They weren't on the list. And there are probably other serial killers that you would like to see, ranked as well. But do you agree with my ranking? Are there others you would like to see me rank, in another video or live stream later on? If so, let me know. Comment down below. Hold on. I gotta disconnect this. Hold on. I'm tired of holding the stupid cable. I'm gonna turn the volume up on here. Okay. Hope you can hear me well. But those are the 14 serial killers that I was asked to rank. Oh, and I've got notes on all 14. Going through them all. So I got the last one. We'll work our way backward from number 1 to number 14. Samuel Little. The FBI says he killed 93, but we have confessions and pictures for 104 murders. Considered the most prolific serial killer in U.S. history. He targeted vulnerable women, mostly sex workers and marginalized individuals, drug addicts, and alcoholics. Some of them, in case you're wondering, where did Samuel Little pick up all those women to murder? Sex workers, pretty obvious. He picked them up on the street. Drug addicts, he picked up from drug dens, opium dens, other places, crash houses, flop houses. Hey man, you're already high. You want to make some money? Come with me. Whatever his game was to get them to go with him. Some of the women that he killed He got out of bars or restaurants, or he waited, for them to be leaving the place, and the establishment. Out of the Shadows with Ginger Kemper is fascinating to me too. Yeah, Gemma, you find Ted Bundy interesting? So Samuel Little was number one. Gacy was number two. Again, brutality. Raped, tortured, and murdered young men and boys. He kept his victims underneath the crawl space of his house, all of them but a couple. Again, the FBI says that he was the only one on the list of the 14 that is 30 plus. They don't know exactly. They know he disposed of two more in the Des Moines River, but they don't know if it's more than that. Because at the end, while Gacy, even with Robert Ressler, talking to him, he refused to say, that he was responsible for these crimes. He tried to cast blame on other people who worked for him, and he tried to point fingers at people that they may have known as the people who killed these other, the people who were underneath the crawl space of his house. Did he dump more in the river? Was there a workplace that he dumped bodies underneath and then put concrete over? We don't know. H.H. Holmes is pretty interesting to read a ton about him. You gotta be careful about that Ginger. He's interesting to read about, but when it comes to H.H. Holmes, a lot of what people think they know is out there in popular culture about H.H. Holmes is completely made up. They took the Whitechapel murders and they took the murders of this H.H. Holmes character that was never caught, and a lot of people, even then, in that area, they drew it out to be this giant monster, of an individual. Was there really a precision, cuts that were made, to murder these women that points to the fact that he may have either been a butcher or a surgeon? Even that little detail of precision cuts and removing of organs was not really ever confirmed. The autopsy results, yeah, some of them were missing their organs. We know that. But was the Whitechapel murders, were those actually H.H. Holmes too? So you got to be careful. That's all I'm saying. When it comes to reading of the history about something like that, especially from that far, ago. And there's people who try to say that H.H. Holmes was also Mudgett, here in America. They believe that he was. There's a lot of people that they try to cast that, throw a name at the wall and see if it sticks, kind of thing. What about Ed Gein? Super creepy dude. Yeah, Ed Gein. I've always, Lieutenant RN, I've never considered Ed Gein a serial killer. That's just me, though. What Ed Gein did, yeah, super freaking creepy, but does he qualify as a serial killer? My definition of what a serial killer is may differ from yours and others. Yes, the facts. As was it Sergeant Friday used to say, just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts. That's a Dragnet reference in case you guys, are too young to know what that show was. It was a television show, Dragnet. All right, so that was Bundy and Little. Next was Dahmer, confirmed, kills 17 again. Necrophilia, cannibal, which adds layers to his depravity. He kept body parts, attempted to create a zombie-like victim. He wanted someone to, sexually please him who was alive. He was trying to make a sex zombie. His crimes were horrific, but his victim count was lower than some of the others. Again, yeah, unfortunately, that there was more than one, victim. One was too many, and one is always is too many. Then we had Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. I didn't write down a whole lot about Richard Ramirez other than what we already know about, his satanic, themes to his crimes. But he raped, tortured, and murdered, and the psychological terror of it all. He targeted men, women, and children indiscriminately. He didn't care at all. Ridgway, the Green River Killer. Yeah. Scary more than necrophiliac. There's a lot to, I mean, I wish somebody would, I don't think it's really ever going to be me. I don't really have the time to, but if I was able to work on it in parts, over a long period of time, because it would take some serious work to do. But I would love to see somebody do a video on Ed Gein and the relationship he had with his mother. And I'm willing to bet that if somebody went into it with a completely clear mind, without knowing anything about Ed Gein and just research just that part, I bet it would, at the end of it, if you look back on it, it's going to be a lot like the Norman Bates story, from Psycho, and of the relationship that Norman Bates had with his mother in the house on the hill. Because, even after Ed Gein's mother died, he let everything, the farm, he let the house go to it was a dump. But his mother's room was always dusted, always had clean sheets. This is after she died. He always put fresh flowers on the nightstand in her room, and he never went in there other than just to clean and dust and to change the flowers out. But the rest of the house and everything, because he was so much infatuated and was, worried about her control even after she was gone. But I bet if somebody went into it, with a clear mindset, not knowing anything about Gein, you have to start off that way. Just like a detective, when a detective goes to a crime scene, they let the actual evidence, tell them where to go and who is involved and how things happen. You have to go into it that way and see where the story leads you. And I don't know how much information is out there. That would take a long time to put that together, to actually research. But I think it's going to be like Norman Bates. That's just my feeling from the outside looking in, knowing what little I do know about the relationship between Gein and his mother. I lived in Milwaukee when Dahmer started his killing spree. You did as well? I lived down the street, from down the street and around the corner from where he did. I was just a little kid though, Lieutenant RN, when Dahmer started his killing spree. Uh, I shouldn't say from when he started. He started it before that. I lived down the street and around the corner from where his apartment complex was, where he lived at the time when he was actually arrested. Now, I believe they've demolished that entire apartment complex, but Milwaukee, good old Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I was just a kid then. I was probably 11, 12, somewhere in there. That was a long time ago. I don't want to say how old I am, but I mean, that was an awfully long time ago. All right, so I left off on Richard Ramirez. Next one was Israel Keys. Clear, no victim type, which made him harder to track. They didn't know who was responsible. His confessions, gave extremely, chilling details. And the worst part about Israel Keys is he took his secrets and complete confessions to the grave with him. Not wanting to stand trial and be prosecuted for his crimes, he took it with him. We'll never know where did he hide them all. Now there have been a couple of those kill buckets that were found, and in the trivia night that I did with about Israel Keys, which was probably like a month ago or so, I did enclose some of the photographs of those one of the kill kits in there. It was an orange 5 gallon bucket, not a Home Depot bucket. I don't believe so. It might have been Menards home bucket, Home Depot, home like 5 gallon bucket for Menards. Um, but and inside there was like rope, gloves, antiseptic wipes, things to cover up his tracks, a handgun, a knife was in there. But that was his kill kit, duct tape, all of that was in there, and that 5 gallon bucket, and then he had a lid that was screwed on the top. It didn't snap down, but it screwed on the top. But they found that afterwards. Someone stumbled upon that, I believe. He lived on the north side, 16th and Hampton. Oh, Lieutenant Orion. As a kid, I couldn't tell you where any of the streets are in Milwaukee. I just know that we lived above a little laundry mat and grocery store. And my mom, I have pictures of me and my mom and my youngest sister in front of, like, it was my grandmother had taken a picture of us standing in front of it, because there was a door that went into the little AM PM or bodega, whatever you want to call it, and the one that went into the laundromat, and then there was a stairwell that went up in between, and that went to I think there were 4 apartments upstairs, and we lived in apartment C. But that's here nor there. It was just kind of interesting that we both lived in the same place, and we came that close to a serial killer like Dahmer. Your coworker was a classmate with Rob Peace, Gacy's last victim. My best friend cut Dahmer's hair. Another friend used to get into arguments with Rader about her digs when he was an ordained ordnance officer. Really? And good evening, Mindy. Welcome to ranking of 14 serial killers. It's interesting. Small world sometimes when you think about it. I mean, they say if you live in a metropolitan area like Seattle or Dallas or Los Angeles, a major metropolitan area, you will probably walk past at least 1 to 3, somewhere between there 1 and 3 serial killers in your lifetime if you live there. So I don't know. I don't know what the criteria that you have to live there your whole life. I mean, is that within 10 years or within 1 year? I don't know. That's just what it's something that's always just stuck in my head. That they say if you live in a metropolitan area, you'll have walked past a serial killer in your lifetime. So you never know. There could be serial killers out there that we've all walked past and we just didn't know that they were there. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I'm almost 100% sure I've met one. The guy freaking creeped me the hell out, and the information I found out later on about the guy was just like unbelievable. And it's like it just pinpoints that this, I didn't see any bodies stacked up, out on the patio, but I mean everything points to there was something seriously going on here that was, like that. He was a serial killer or something, but he definitely had something to hide. See, where did I leave off? Israel Keys. Next one was Rodney Alcala, the dating game killer. Man, you cannot, and I trust me on this when I say this, you cannot believe Wikipedia on Rodney Alcala there are major errors in, even in where he was born. Now, I've submitted multiple corrections to it. Maybe they'll correct it. But if you go to Rodney Alcala's Wikipedia page, it says that he killed between 8 people and 130. Yeah, somebody put a correction in for 130. It should be between 8 and 13, not 130. But yeah, he like I said, he photographed his victims. He took pictures of them before he killed them. And the pictures looked innocent enough. And when he was caught, he did have the pictures in his possession. Some of them he had in the glove box of his car. He carried around. It wasn't like one of the like 70s, 80s Instamatic ones, but it was a Polaroid, that did dispense an actual picture. I can't remember the model number, but he did have one of those cameras. He traveled everywhere with it. My oldest sister went to college at Wichita State. I used to come stay there every summer for a couple of weeks before BTK got caught. That city was on lockdown. Wow. 6 degrees of separation, says Mindy. True, they say. They definitely say the 6 degrees of separation. You never know. And remember, not all of Gacy's victims have been identified to this point. Next one on the list is Ed Kemper. I have always thought that Ed Kemper was one of the most interesting on this list. If I could ever sit down, and talk to a serial killer face to face, I would like to sit down and just listen to Kemper. I mean, he could read me the newspaper, and I would just like to sit and listen to him. I find him that interesting. The intellect and everything else about his life story, about the abuse that he endured, from a young age from at the hands of his mother, and then how his grandmother, allowed it all to happen. And then the first people he struck out against was killing his grandmother and grandfather. I mean, and how matter of factly he did it, and then waited for the police to come and arrest him. And then at the end of his murder spree and killing co-eds and killing his mother, he dialed up the police officer that he knew and confessed to the crime and said, "I'll be here waiting for you." And when the officer showed up, he was just sitting there eating his ice cream cone like he was there to report a minor traffic accident because he didn't care. Is that I always wanted to understand that psychological like disconnect. How could he be so involved in his life, for such a large part of it, growing and growing and growing, and then he gets a bad setback that makes him snap, and he goes and kills some more co-eds. Then he goes back to trying to live in his life and work and everything else, and then I guess I'll kill some more co-eds, and then I'll kill my mom. And when you look at the entire thing, his grandmother and his mom were his the two people he hated his entire life, who damn near made sure he was never going to survive, succeed. Because he had even when he tried to become, go into law enforcement and everything else, that was always there playing in the back of his mind, that he was worthless and that he was someone to be feared because of his size. But and I realized earlier that after I was done with this, that I said Kamala and I should have said Carla when it came to Bernardo, Paul Bernardo. I don't know. Sometimes I just get names mixed up like that. But anyways, next is Dennis Rader, BTK himself. It shouldn't be a surprise to anybody that he tortured every single victim. Not only tortured them while they were alive, but some he tortured even after they were already gone. They were dead. He tortured their bodies or did things to their bodies after the fact too. But he was definitely a sadistic killer, and he loved to toy with the police for decades. He did. It was a game. Oh no, he does. He definitely doesn't. Kemper said he knows if he ever got out, he would go back to killing again. He knows it. He was able to memorize the psychological test after killing his grandparents, so they would let him out of the institution. He memorized it, and he memorized the answers or the perceived answers that they would want for the question. And he was able to convince them to let him go. And it didn't take long afterwards for him to go right back to killing again. This time taking his rage out on co-eds. Um, and then a couple of them that I don't want to drag this on forever, but he killed. He definitely the rage was a lot more than it needed to be. A lot more. But I just think Kemper is interesting because the man, he an individual, the individual, he is so smart, his intellect, and then why did he go that way? Did he ever have a chance to, at a normal life? Of course he did. Nobody has to kill. I know people that were, lived through horrific amounts of abuse, and have never just, hurt another person, and that would never think about hurting another person. But maybe that person's just stronger than Kemper, and Kemper couldn't, fight the urges to not hurt other people. So see, then next one is Paul Bernardo, the Ken and Barbie killers. Confirmed three murders, but so again, some people put the number at 10, 15, but they were sadistic in who they targeted, and they definitely they targeted and killed Carla's own sister and videotaped it. And then there is Robert Yates. Good old Robert Yates. Sex workers, necrophilia, torture. He'd love to go back, just like Bundy and Gacy, and Ridgway. They love to go back to their victims over and over again. I think his mom had a lot to do with the rage he ended up with. I think so too. I wish that Kemper would have taken a complete IQ test. He's taken parts of two different ones, but he refuses to do it because he doesn't want them to know just how smart he is. But see, Robert Yates, he targeted sex workers, runaways, alcoholics, drug addicts, those who lived, on the outer parts of society. People don't report them missing. If your favorite prostitute on the Sunset Strip, or the Blue Light District disappears tomorrow, is the pimp going to go into the police department and say, "Hey, my favorite hoe, is missing"? No. Or is the drug addict going to go, "Hey, man, my number one customer just disappeared, man. I need to sell, more of this, heroin or meth or whatever. I need her to, get other people hooked on it." He's not going to go file a missing persons report for him. So, unfortunately, a lot of these people, and even today, in 2025, these people disappear. A missing persons report is not going to be filed right away. You have to have a family member, somebody that they've been in contact with, a mother. Maybe they called mom once a week, or a sister, or a friend, and they report them missing. But do they truly know that that foul play was involved, or maybe they decided, all right, this is the way to get out of here. I got to bust out of here. I got to stop being walking the streets at night, for giving away sex for drugs or for cash. I got to break away, move to another city. So they got on a Greyhound bus. These are all possible options. I need to go to rehab, and they just cut loose everybody and go to rehab. Did they, are they really missing? And of course, that's why another reason why a pimp is not going to, report her, because even if he finds her later on, he's going to beat her, or probably kill her, himself. The same thing with a drug addict. I mean, maybe that drug addict is not going to go report her missing because she OD'd on that product, and she's dead in an alleyway or in some flop house. So he's definitely not going to do it. And then that mom or somebody who maybe they had in contact with, maybe they'd only heard from them once a month, and it's going to take a couple of months before they realize that they're missing, or they just assume that they're out getting high or doing whatever they're doing. There might be more months added to it before somebody files a report, if ever. So that's where your Robert Yates and your Ridgeways, and your Samuel Littles, they got away with it for so long because these people were expendable. I hate to say it, but they were. Society did not care about them, and they don't care about them today. That marginalized part of society. Nobody cares about the drug addict or alcoholic. We pity them. We don't care about them, though. We just hope that they don't do anything near us or hurt us or destroy our property or steal from us. That's all we care about. We don't want their crime coming to us. So that was Robert Yates. H.H. Holmes, again, when it comes to H.H. Holmes, you got to take a lot of what people have said and written about over the years with skepticism is the best way to put it. A lot of the actual facts have been twisted over the years, and people have expanded upon what is really the actual facts and are known in the case. But the murder castle, even his hotel, was never, it was all a scam to start with, the whole hotel thing. It built it, and then he was supposed to add the other 2 floors for the exhibition that was coming to Chicago, and he scammed even in the investors to increase the room sizes of the hotel. And the construction workers were like, who built the place were like, this place is just crap. No one's going to want to stay here. But he conned investors out of the money, just like he did a lot of his life. He was more of a con man than a murderer. Then we had Herbert Mullins was number 14 from the list. Herbert Mullins, truly insane. The man did not know what he was doing, and if he would have been caught after one murder, he would never have been. He never would have stood trial. He would have went straight to the institution for the rest of his life. But people did not want to act upon what they already knew when it came to him, and he truly was insane. And most of his life, even when he was incarcerated before that, they knew this man is nuts. Holmes, you have to dig into old newspapers, articles, and those could be salacious as well. Yeah. Oh, sorry if I didn't say hello, Sprinkle Donut. I'm sorry. I've been terrible at reading the comments. I catch a couple here and there. I haven't even said hello to everybody as they've been here tonight, and I'm truly sorry about that. But again, if you're watching this afterwards or now, drop a comment in it afterwards and say if there are others you'd like me to look into later on and rank. I'll do this again, another special. It'd probably be on a Friday night. Again, which is going to be fun because I'm doing Friday tonight, and then tomorrow morning, and then I'm doing Sunday night. And yes, I know Sunday night is the Super Bowl, but I'm still doing it because this is more important to me, and I hope you'll be here as well. But if you would agree with the list and the rankings from 14 to 1, maybe there's somebody in there you're like, nah, I don't think he's number 3. Maybe I'd put him at a number 9. But I don't agree with Crime Writers of America on some of their brutalities. The ones that I have written down here, when it comes to the levels of brutality, I would have put Israel Keys, like number 13 right in there. And when it came to Gates, Kemper, and Raider, I would have put them a lot closer to number 1, all 3 of them. Gacy, yes, but Gacy, like Bundy, was looking for anyone, but Gacy didn't have a type. He wanted the gullible. He wanted someone who he figured he could get handcuffs on. Hey, let me show you a magic trick, or handcuffs or the rope trick. And then that way they're defenseless, and he could do whatever he wanted with them. Personally, I believe Gacy, was gay as a child all the way through his life. And a lot of what he did was fighting that inner demon to, because society, his parents, his father in particular, beat him and told him you're not this way and you shouldn't be this way and you can't be gay. And I think a lot of what he did, was secretive, and he killed these people because he wanted to act out his sexual urges with them. That's my feeling on Gacy. Can I prove it? No, but that's beside the point, though. Well, either the Chiefs are going to win, or it's a setup to not be not bet big on the Eagles. Mullins was really, really crazy. Yes, he was. Cray, 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 cray. Because before, Gacy's father and his uncle were extremely cruel to him because of his size, and and he wasn't a masculine child. They were really cruel to him then. Then he got caught doing something with another child, and his father just went full tilt into him along with his uncle. And then his father's friend used to take him on truck rides and stuff like that and molest him. And all these things rolled along with it. And I really do think that that Gacy was definitely gay, but he just couldn't come out and say that's who he was. But I frankly don't care who wins the Super Bowl. But if you ask me who I want to win, I want the Philadelphia Eagles to win. I don't care if the Chiefs win. I don't have any money on it. I'm not much of a betting person, but I definitely wouldn't bet on the Super Bowl. But do I think the NFL's fixed? No. No, I just think that that there are certain teams that are a lot better at putting the right pieces of the puzzles together, and you have to start from the ownership down. It probably won't ever happen in my lifetime that we will see Tennessee or the Jaguars ever be in the Super Bowl, because it starts from the ownership down. when you have ownership that does some of the craziest things like they've done over the years, you know, you might, oh yeah, great, we have a great quarterback. Good for you. You have a great quarterback, but you have no defensive or offensive line. You're gonna get yourself, your quarterback murdered if you just put him out there every week. So I'm just going to pick whoever my husband doesn't pick for the fun of it. My wife is picking by the color of the uniform. She's like, she's like, well, I like the Kansas City Chiefs that all red. She goes, that looks pretty sharp. But she goes, but the Eagles have got a really nice logo. So she's going with Philadelphia because of the logo, and she's like, she's not too keen on the color of green though, but she likes the eagle, so she picked the Eagles. That was her determination of who to pick. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to wrap up tonight's 14 ranking of the 14 serial killers that I was asked. Again, if you're watching this afterwards, put a comment down below if you would like to see me do another one of these. If not, I hope that everyone shows up tomorrow if you can. It's at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 o'clock in the morning, on Mountain Time, and that is 11 on the East Coast or Eastern Time of the United States. For Page 2 news tomorrow. All right. In the meantime, everyone, you have a great night, and thank you for being here tonight. And Gone Girl, thank you again. I really do appreciate the super chat. I thank you very much. Bye, everyone.